Hey everybody, if you've watched any of my videos before, welcome back. If this is your first time watching, welcome. This is a totally unplanned, impromptu video. If you follow me on Instagram, you know why. Because on Monday, my narcissistic mother came after me in a desperate attempt to, of course, get her way. I'm so appalled by this, and I just want to put this video out there because I feel like if you're watching this, you're probably in a similar spot to me, and I just want you to know that you're not alone. And I recognize that what she does is so toxic and so unhealthy, and there's still like this little voice in the back of my head that's like, oh, you shouldn't talk about this or whatever. It's crazy. It's just the way we've been programmed, the way we were brought up. Like, everything's a secret. Like, our abusive, toxic, terrible, horrible families, it's a big secret, right? Everything's about the exterior, the way everything appears. As long as everybody thinks that we're happy and we're great, that's all that matters. Like, never mind the fact that you're utterly miserable and suffering. So, here's the backstory. Earlier this year, thanks to fabulous YouTube, videos started appearing in my feed about narcissists and narcissistic parents, narcissistic mothers. And I was just going on YouTube because it's fabulous, and I was watching, I was getting meditations and things like that. And then finally I was like, I'm going to watch one of these videos, and I did. And as soon as I watched it, it was like, everything snapped into place. Everything made sense. Like, I'm 38 years, I'm going to be 39. It's like all these years of being put down and treated poorly by my parents and my sibling. It just all made sense, and I was like, holy Christmas. So ever since then, I've been learning as much as I can about narcissistic abuse and trying to take care of myself and overcome it. So part of that is distancing myself from my narcissistic mother, because she is toxic on every level. She has been stabbing me in the back, not sticking up for me, you name it. She's invading my privacy, all of the typical things that narcissistic mothers do when they just entirely devalue you and they do not respect you as an individual. So my narcissistic mother is no exception. She is a horrible offender. So I've been distancing myself and trying to establish boundaries. Historically, I was always like, oh, she's my mom. Like, she shouldn't have any boundaries, right? Because she's my mom. Like, one of the best things that you can do for yourself when you have a narcissistic mother, if you don't go no contact, you absolutely have to establish boundaries. That's a necessity. So the only reason I haven't gone no contact yet is because we have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old daughter, and we love and treasure and cherish these beautiful children, and they already have sort of a relationship with my parents. My parents are not very involved in our lives, but when they do all of a sudden appear, and the kids are so sweet and innocent, and they buy their shit right away, so they have a relationship with them. So my husband and I are trying to do the best that we can with, not screwing up our kids and letting them have a relationship, but at the same time, I clearly need to protect myself. So that has been my effort. I've been distancing myself from her and establishing these boundaries. Well, of course, she doesn't like that. So this makes me so angry. So I'm in a wheelchair. If you've watched my videos, you know. And on Sunday, my husband and I had a group reading at our house because, again, my son Joey passed away, and I love speaking to him through mediums. It's such a blessing, thank God. It's a way to communicate with my son. And my favorite medium, Gina Marie DeLuca, came to our house on Sunday. We had a group reading with our close friends and family that were interested in coming. So, you know, my mother caught wind of it. It was rescheduled. So the first time it was scheduled, my cousin and her mom were coming, and they ran into my mother at a family get-together. And my cousin's mom mentioned something to my mother, and my mother was like, oh, I didn't know about it. So of course she comes to me like, oh, I didn't know, you didn't tell me. And I was like, oh, it was rescheduled. Like, I just keep trying to kick the ball, you know what I mean? Like, to try to just get her away from me, like, without confrontation, like, because it's useless. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you can have all the evidence in the world, all the facts lined up as to why they're a piece of garbage, and they will just duck and dodge every single thing that you throw at them. They will never take accountability or ownership for their despicable behavior or for the terrible offenses they've committed against you. They will never admit to anything. Anyway, so we had this get together on Sunday finally, and Sunday morning, that's my dog in the back. He's so cute, Gino. So on Sunday morning, my narc mother called me, and I didn't answer, so she left a message, and she was like, oh, I haven't seen you and the girls, and I miss you, love you, throws the love word around, like, because that's just another manipulation tactic on their part. Narcissists don't know how to love. They use it as a way to manipulate you, because we're like human beings with like hearts and souls, and we know what love means, and they try to play to that, to our compassion and our kindness. So anyway, so she says all this, and I texted her back. I said, hey, thanks for the invitation, but we have plans today. So Monday comes around, the next day, and she tries again. She's like, oh, listen, I have off today, so why don't we spend the day together? This is all, again, her self-interest. She found herself alone, so she was like, oh, by the way, she had the day off from work, so obviously she had planned this day off a while ago, right? But she doesn't want to commit to me or our children or anything like that, because she puts herself first, and if she doesn't feel like it, you're out. So she doesn't ever want to commit to anything, because she puts herself first, and whatever she wants is what she does. So anyway, so listen, I have the day off. Let's spend the day together. And I did not answer the phone, because I do not want her toxicity and negativity in my life anymore. I've had enough of it. And she texted, so I didn't write back, because I was like, I don't need to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. So my husband had to work on Monday, so he was not home with me. It was just me and the kids. And so my dad Skypes, and whenever he Skypes, he talks to the kids. So I was like, I was at the computer, and my 6-year-old was with me, and I was like, oh, you want to talk to Papa? So he called, and and first thing he says, oh, you want to come over swimming? Never mind, like, that's not on my agenda for the day. That's not what I want. I'm her parent, but screw me. It's all about my narc mother and what she wants. So let's just, trample me in the process of getting what she wants. So he says that, we'll come pick you up, let's go swimming. And of course they set that up. Of course our kids want to go swimming. They're little. So my narc mother texts my husband to make sure that he's not home, that he's working, so I'm by myself. And this is what has always happened historically. Her and my dad tag team me. They were team narc mother against me every time. So they show up to the house and I'm just cringing, and our kids are all ready to go, and I was like, okay. So my dad comes in first, her henchman, oh, what's the matter? You're not talking to mommy? And I was like, I'm good, I'm fine, because it's so senseless, you guys. I have confronted her a million times over in the past about, my grievances with her, things that she has done that I find deplorable and disrespectful to me, and I've brought it to her attention to try to find a resolution, to try to improve communication in our relationship, and I'm always met with the same response, which is her not taking ownership or accountability for the things that she has done. And she's always right, because she's the parent, she's the narc parent, so she can do no wrong. So I know better at this point in my life. I'm like, it's not worth it. I'm trying to improve my health, my physical, emotional, spiritual condition. So I'm protecting myself, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about, I'm good. And that's all I kept saying. I'm good. I'm fine. I don't have a problem. So then my narc mother comes in behind my dad, and she's all disheveled and doesn't have any makeup on and looking all pathetic, because she's always the victim, right? So mind you, my kids are in my house and they're getting ready to go. So she's like, let's talk, Michelle. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. I don't need to talk. And she's like, no, let's talk. And she just kept persisting, kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and just relentless, wouldn't leave me the flip alone. And again, I'm sitting there in a wheelchair in my kitchen, and she's like, let's talk, let's go in the other room. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm good, I'm gonna stay right here in my wheelchair. And again, my kids are there, and so she starts in with me, and I'm like, first of all, my children are here. So, and she's like, okay, that's why daddy's here. Daddy will take him outside. And this blows my mind too. My parents refer to themselves as mommy and daddy. I don't think I have used those terms since I first started speaking or something. This is clearly the way that they see themselves, as mommy and daddy, even though they couldn't be farther from those esteemed roles. I always say it. It's a privilege and an honor to be a parent to these incredible children. And for my parents, they see it it's so screwed up. They see the complete opposite. I should be honored that they're my parents. I'll get into it. So anyway, so my narc mother keeps coming at me. My dad takes the kids outside, and she's like, what's the matter, Michelle? And she used every narcissistic tactic in the book. It was bam, bam. It was one after another. And I really didn't react. I just sat there and, I brought up, of course, things that she has done that are blatantly disrespectful of me. And what did she do? She just denies everything, or changes the topic entirely. Like, you did this. Oh, the price of beans in Boston. Like, just entirely ignoring the issue at hand because she is in the wrong. And any which way you slice it, she's in the wrong. So, it was so infuriating. I'm so sorry if you have undergone this, but this was my experience on Monday, and I just want to share it because I know you guys are in the same boat as me with this. So she came at me and I, for my wedding, one of the most special days of my life, I had my monster sister-in-law in the wedding because it was the right thing to do, and that's what my narc mother would have wanted. So I did that. And my monster sister-in-law is awful, and she's always been jealous, and she's always been terrible to me, and just jumped on the abuse bandwagon with my brother and my parents. Like, everybody, I'm like the redheaded stepchild. Everybody just beats me down. So why would she not jump on that and do the same? So it sounds so silly. It's crazy even bringing it up, but I might as well. So for my wedding, all my bridesmaids, I was super easygoing. All my bridesmaids, I had pink dresses, and they all decided that they were going to wear pink shoes as well. They were getting their shoes dyed to match. Well, this bitch didn't feel like doing that, right? It was like a blatant smack in the face to me. I'm going to do what I want, So I had 8 bridesmaids. So we get in the limo to go to the church, and everybody sits down and their dresses come up, and her shoes are silver. Everybody else has pink shoes, but she has silver shoes. I brought it up to my parents at a later time, and, oh, Michelle, I told her that she could do that. My mother is saying this, that she told my monster sister-in-law to wear whatever shoes she wanted. Again, it's my wedding day. It's my special day. And I was very easygoing, but it was just a deliberate way to undermine me in doing this. So that's one silly example. So I say to my mother, she's like, tell me, Michelle, tell me, what have I done? Or what have I done that you're upset about, or something like that? And I was like, I'm not petty. I don't have a list written down of, examples. And she's like, oh, you're not? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So you're saying I'm petty now? And she was like, whatever. I was like, okay, strike one. So that was the first thing. And then the next thing she started to launch into, there's a million examples of ways that she has disrespected me and stabbed me in the back and, let the golden boy, my older brother, get away with murder against me. So she said, there was another example I said, and I put this in my Instagram. It was about, I'm so proud of myself. I was working. I was in my young 20s. I had an awesome job. And I leased a brand new shiny black Celica. Because back in the day, it was cool. And I had it parked in the driveway behind my flying monkey golden boy brother. He had a truck at the time. And so the truck is obviously higher than the Celica. It's like a low to the ground type of car, if you know what it is. And mind you, I'm parking as close to the garage as I can, because at this time I was diagnosed with MS and I was having trouble walking. But he parked in front of me because that's where he wanted to park, right? So I parked as close to him as I can. He backed over my car, leaving a scratch across the hood, the entire length of the car. Didn't dawn on him when he hit the car initially, so he kept all the way up to the windshield. He backed over my car, and he's such a jerk. He went to work and just left it like that because nobody ever held him accountable for anything. So I go out to my car to go to work, and there's this horrific scratch across. And mind you, it's brand new. I had just gotten it, and the long and the short of it, he did not pay to have it fixed entire. He paid some money towards, but he didn't pay for the entire repair. I had to pay for, his carelessness. And nobody held him accountable. My parents didn't care. Anyway, so I brought this up. And I was in my young 20s, like I said. Do you know what my narcissistic mother's response was? This is so disgusting, it just makes my blood boil. She was like, oh, whatever, Michelle. First of all, she said I was in high school, which is inaccurate and not true. Then she was like, oh, you were fucking in front of. I was like, what? What are you talking about, man? Like, first of all, she used the F word because it was like for shock value, like to detract from the whole issue. And second of all, she always goes to that, like, trying to cut me down, trying to make me feel bad about myself, by insinuating that I'm some kind of like slut or whatever. Like, and I think back and I'm like, hey everybody, I'm back. Sorry, technical difficulty. So I just told you the story about, my narc mother was prodding me for specific examples of things that she's done. And I told her about back when my golden boy brother ran over my brand new Celica, didn't pay to fix it, gave me money towards it, but not the entire expense. And anyway, and then she was like, oh, that was in high school, which it absolutely was not. I was an adult. I was working. Anyway, then she launches into this whole, oh, you were fucking everywhere in front of us. And as I started to say, she, first of all, dropped the F-bomb. I drop the F-bomb all the time, but she did it this time for, like, shock value. Just to, like, detract from the blatant, like, bold-faced, like, lie that she was just trying to spring on me or sneak in there. And, anyway, I was, like, 20 years old at that time. And I had a boyfriend because I always had boyfriends because I was always looking to fill that void of love that I wasn't getting from my parents. Anyway, and then she always tries to, like, slut shame me in some way, make me feel like I was a tramp or whatever. And that's, like, another tactic that she always uses to try to put me down. And I was like, I should have, like, in hindsight, I was recalling all of this to my husband, and he was like, you should have kicked her out of our home. She's saying this stuff to me in my own home. Again, and I'm sitting here in a wheelchair, and she has the audacity. This is all because she was just trying to get what she wants, and what she wants is her supply. I've always been, just too nice to her. I've always tried to accommodate her, pay attention to her, all those things, and all she has done is been toxic and negative, and I'm asserting myself and setting boundaries and trying to stay away from her, and she doesn't like it. So she's trying to go down this road. So she tried that. And then she launches into about how I need to forgive. And she says, how are you gonna heal, Michelle, if you can't forgive? And that's not very Christian of you. Again, if you follow my Instagram, you know that narcissists use religion as a, platform to try to manipulate you into doing what they want, to try to control you, it was so disgusting that she had the nerve to bring that up. That, like, how dare you? Like, I forgive. I'm fine with forgiving. Doesn't mean I need to accept shitty people into my life. I'm at a great place. I love my life. I'm surrounded by amazing people that I treasure. My husband and our children are my world, and I'm so grateful for them. And just because I don't want you in my life, you're going to use the forgiveness card. Like, that was so gross. So gross. And then she had the nerve to bring my health into it. It was beyond. So that was another desperate attempt she used. And then, you guys, this was like part of the icing on the cake. She was really feeling herself at this point. She was like digging really deep, like tears, waterworks, the whole nine. She was like, "Oh, I should get an Academy Award for this, no doubt," in her own mind. She was like, "And Michelle, I would." And then she looks down, like mustering up the tears. She's like, "I would trade places with you if I could." And I'm like, screw you. Like, first of all, she would trade places with me in a wheelchair because, A, no doubt she has no idea how difficult things really are for me. She would never, never be able to deal with what I deal with being disabled on a daily basis. But in her mind, she glorifies everything and she loves being the victim. So she would love being in a wheelchair, right? Everybody would do everything for her. So that was one part of it. But the other part is like, hell no, she would absolutely not trade places. And, it's an impossibility. So she could say whatever she wants. I'm just going to wrap it up. So those are just some of the highlights from this showdown that happened on Monday. I was so disgusted and so appalled. And I'm sure that you... Hey, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm having crazy technical difficulties. Even the camera's like, I've heard enough. Anyway, that's just a taste of what happened on Monday. My narcissistic mother disgusts me. It only, reiterates the fact that I need to just go no contact and not have anything to do with her because she's toxic and she just hurts me. Every day since then, I had a horrible headache and I've been completely depleted, exhausted. That's the physiological effects of dealing with a narcissist. They harm you emotionally and mentally, and it translates to physical symptoms as well. It's horrible. I hope you guys have not had to deal with this, and if you have, I hope that you're living your best life going no contact. God bless you all, and thanks for watching. We're down, but we're not out.